Hello, my name is Chrissy Hodges. I'm an OCD and mental health advocate, and I did a lot of different live videos during OCD Awareness Week, and it was so much fun connecting with so many of you and having the same feelings that I did and having, the same experiences I did. It certainly does make me feel less alone. And so I just wanted to talk today, about relationship OCD. Now, this is something, hi, how are you doing? Thanks for joining. This is one thing that I really haven't talked about in my recovery. And mainly because it's really confusing to me. It was during a relapse, and, it's a little embarrassing when I talk about, what it felt like and why it was there. Let me explain what relationship OCD is. First of all, relationship OCD is basically when OCD kind of attacks the relationship that you're in, and it can take several different forms. It can take someone, or you're with someone and you're worried that they're not the right person, or you're constantly picking their flaws apart, or picking their flaws and saying, well, maybe this means that I'm not supposed to be with this person. With me, it was, hi, Lauren. With me, it was the opposite type. And so it, again, OCD, totally blindsided me, because I was like, oh my gosh, if only it had been the regular ROCD where, I had to worry about the person that I'm with and they're the ones, but it was the opposite. It took the form of whether or not this relationship was right for me on his end. So I just, I'm going to try to keep it, I'm going to try not to ramble, but anybody that knows me out there is like, yeah, right. So this happened when I relapsed 4 years ago. Okay. I had already had ERP for, HOCD. I had not had it for emetophobia, but I also had it for scrupulosity. So I understood how ERP worked. But then when I got hit with relationship OCD, it was like, oh my God, this is different. And then of course it was, oh no, this isn't OCD, because you think to yourself, well, it feels different than it did before. So this probably isn't OCD, and this is probably just real. And so it's terrified me. I was relapsing really bad. I didn't know that I was in a relapse and that it was ROCD. Seriously, until my roommate looked at me one morning and she went, girl, you have asked me the same question 20 times in 5 minutes. And I was like, what? And she repeated it back. And she said, I've told you the same answer. It was about the guy I was dating. And she was like, I don't know if him doing that means that he doesn't like you or not. And I sat there and I was like, oh no. And I thought, oh my God, this is OCD. All of a sudden I thought, this is the same pattern that it is when I have obsessions. And then that's when things got ugly. Okay. I had, again, this initial feeling of relief. I remember getting, getting my clothes together because I was about to go running, and, getting everything together. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is OCD. So this really means that, everything's cool in my relationship and it's just in my imagination. Oh, trick number one for OCD that we've all experienced, right? So then all of a sudden I'm driving to the trailhead. Bear with me. I'm driving to the trailhead and all of a sudden I slammed on the brakes and almost hit this car. Okay. I thought that when I kept going, I had that rush of adrenaline and I was like, whew, okay. I almost hit a car, and then we started moving, and then I looked back or I looked ahead and I was like, where did that car go? And then I went, oh my God, I wonder if I accidentally hit that car. Did I hit the car? Did they pull over? I would know if I hit the car, right? And then this SUV pulls up behind me and I go, oh my God, the cops are after me. I bet this is a hit and run. I bet that someone's going to pull me over, and I'm having a full blown panic attack. And then I'm like, whatever, this isn't OCD. This is for real. And maybe you're just making all this up just to show that you really don't have relationship OCD and this guy really doesn't like you. And I know that you're sitting here listening and you're like, what is this girl talking about? Well, I'm going to tell you, it was real. Okay. So I can say that now. I could not say that then. I get to the trailhead. I get out of the car and I'm like, okay, everything's okay. And I go for a run, and then I get back and I'm like, silly OCD, that was so stupid. I get back in the car, and all of a sudden I realize I'm going 20 miles an hour because I'm worried that every car that goes by me that has a dent on it, that maybe I had hit the car. And then I started thinking, what if I'm just faking all this only to make up for the fact that I really think that I have OCD, but I don't, and this relationship really isn't the relationship that I'm supposed to be in because he doesn't like me. Oh my God. This is what it felt like. So then I had to deal with that other stuff, and I'll talk about that in another video. But what happened is I started to make up this huge story about I didn't really have OCD, and my relationship was really horrible, and he really just didn't like me. And I started looking for signs everywhere. I started, God, and then I felt psycho. I felt like, what if I'm a psycho girlfriend? Because he would text me, and then I would go, and then I would respond, and then I would start counting seconds. And I'd be like, if he doesn't respond in 20 seconds, that means he doesn't like me anymore. That means this relationship isn't supposed to happen. And maybe I'm just not getting the signs. And so I started looking for signs. And then if he did text me, then I would be like, well, and then I would like analyze everything that he said. And okay, this is stupid, but if he would write K instead of okay, spell it out, I would be like, oh my God, but if he really liked me, wouldn't he just spell out the whole word? And I would be paralyzed in the car for like a 4 text conversation. I would be paralyzed sitting there going over and over and over these texts going, there's got to be a sign here. I've got to be able to see, the truth. But the truth is I was terrified to ask him. Anybody else would be like, hey, just so you know, like, I'm feeling a little insecure in the relationship. Are we okay? But I was scared if I asked him that he would think that I was a psycho, and then he wouldn't want to date me because then he would know that I was a psycho. It was so terrifying and painful. And it consumed me. And not to mention this other thing consumed me, that I worried that I was just faking and I really didn't have OCD because I was afraid to face that I was dating someone that really didn't like me. I know you're probably listening and going, girl, you are nuts. Well, I felt like it. And then, I would start to think, okay, I would like I've said before, it was like I was in the spin cycle, and I would be paralyzed in this cycle of misery. And I would come up every once in a while and I go, this is so stupid. There's no reason why he wouldn't like me. Nothing's changed. Nothing's happened. But then I would get pulled right back in, and I would ruminate all day, everything that he said, and then I started to avoid him. And then I was like, well, I can't be around him, because if I'm around him and he knows that I am looking at all of his words and I am analyzing all of his words and everything he says, I'm trying to figure out what it really means, because it just can't mean what he says, then he's going to think I'm a psycho and he's not going to want to date me. It was such a vicious cycle. So this went on for a couple weeks, and I was on medication at the time, and medication, it works for me. I'm really lucky in that capacity. So, I got back on medication. Well, it doesn't kick in for me for weeks. So I had to sit in this cycle for a while, and, I had to tell him, I'm not doing okay right now, and I can't tell you the reason why, because I was scared. And I said, so I'm going to need some space. I'm going to need some time. And, during that time, I knew it was going to be hell. I knew I was going to sit there. I owned a clothing store at the time. And so I had to just sit there all day, and, try to be friendly to people. And every time someone would leave, I'd go to the back and I would bend over and have a panic attack. I had asked him not to contact me because I needed some space, but then him not contacting me fueled the ROCD of like, well, he doesn't really like me. He doesn't really want anything to do with me. And my rational brain couldn't say, Chrissy, you asked him for space and he's actually honoring it. So what I started to do was I didn't believe that it was OCD. I really believed that I was faking it in order to compensate for the fact that he really didn't like me. Now, you may be thinking that doesn't make any sense. Well, no, OCD doesn't make any sense. And it certainly doesn't make any sense when you're in the middle of it, okay? And so I thought, I have nothing else to lose. I have a few weeks before my medication kicked in, so this is what I did. I used the ERP techniques that I had learned when I went in for HOCD. And what that is that you have to be comfortable in uncertainty, which all of y'all know. It's the worst therapy in the world. You know, you think you're going into therapy, it's going to be all great, and you go into therapy and you leave feeling like hell. So I was terrified because I had to seriously face the fact that this relationship, you know, may be what I think it is, which is he doesn't like me and he's just faking it. And I've read all these signs and I'm unlovable and all this other stuff, you know, and then it spirals out to everything else. And so what I did is I created my own hierarchy and I created my own flooding techniques, which for me, that's what works. So every day for 3 weeks while I was at work, because I worked 7 days a week at this point because it was a clothing store. Every day at certain times of the day, I would get to that hour, like 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. And for 30 minutes, I would flood my brain with this relationship isn't working. This guy doesn't like me. And these are all of the reasons. And this is why you're repulsive. And I was terrified to flood. Okay. Because nobody wants to think those things about yourself. But then when I would get into the flooding, all of a sudden, like within 20, 25 minutes, when I'm trying to think about all this stuff and about how much he doesn't like me and how much all the things I've done wrong in the relationship that he probably knows about, I would start to feel this break and I would start to feel some relief and that anxiety and weight lifted. Now, then I'd get done flooding and it would come right back within like a half hour, but I kept doing it. And within a few days, I started to feel by the end of the day, I would feel this huge release and I would feel relieved and like, okay, maybe this is OCD. And I'm not going to tell you because all of y'all know, if you have OCD, you also know that the secondary fear is that maybe you don't have OCD and you really are just nuts. And that all these things that you think are true, especially the type of OCD that I have, which is pure intrusive thoughts. But it gave me like one little spark of hope to just have it lift for a few minutes. And so that's the message that I want to leave with you tonight. The first message is ROCD sucks. It just sucks. It doesn't matter which form you have, whether or not you're like obsessively looking for people's, you know, whether they like you or whether this relationship is right for you, or the opposite. Is this the right person that I'm supposed to be with and I'm going to pick apart their flaws and how do I know for sure? You know what? We don't know. And that is the worst part about this. With OCD, you don't know. You're never going to know. You can't prove enough. You can't disprove enough. There's never enough certainty. There's never enough uncertainty. So the best thing we can do is become comfortable in that uncertainty. And it is painful. And I'm so sorry that you go through it. I'm sorry that I go through it selfishly too. But one of the things that I want to leave you with tonight is there is always those moments of hope. There are always those little bitty times where you come out of the spin cycle and you go, oh my God, this doesn't seem like me. This doesn't align with who I am. I know this isn't real. And then you get sucked back in. Please hold on to those moments. And the times that you think you can't hold on anymore, hold on to those moments and know that one day those moments are going to start getting bigger. They're going to start connecting. And that you are going to be able to live and manage OCD, which however you need to. My personal was medication as well as going through ERP. But whatever helps, know that those moments will come closer together and they will get longer stretches and that you're going to be okay. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm like sweating over here. Talked about ROCD. I mean, to me, it was so embarrassing. I mean, it was just like, you know, because I was so worried about being the psycho girl or whatever. But thanks for listening. And for all of you out there that are suffering with OCD and that are dealing with these horrible symptoms and the secondary fear of not having OCD, please hang in there. Please get help. www.iocdf.org. Go to www.ocdonline.com or John Hirschfield, HER HERSHFIELD.com, johnhirschfield.com. Great articles. And please reach out for help when you need it. And know you are not alone. We're all in this together. Have a wonderful Friday night and a wonderful weekend. And thank you for spending time with me tonight. It was good to talk about it. Love ya. I'll talk to you next time.